Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tony Howard, and I am the president of the Loudoun County Chamber of Commerce, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to the National Conference Center this afternoon for the inaugural edition of the Chamber's 2013 Leadership Luncheon series. This afternoon, the Loudoun County Chamber is proud to present as our guest speaker Dr. Stephen Knapp, the 16th president of the George Washington University. Now, in his role as university president, Dr. Knapp leads a world-renowned institution of higher learning and research that was created through an act of Congress 192 years ago. I found that trivia tidbit online yesterday. I thought that was pretty cool. Started by an act of Congress. Today, GW educates more than 20,000 students from 130 countries at each of its 3 primary campuses, which includes one just down the road right here in Loudoun County. In fact, the George Washington University has been offering graduate education classes and conducting research in engineering, physics, and chemistry at its Virginia Science and Technology campus in Loudoun County for more than 20 years. In that time, the Virginia Science and Technology campus has become a vital center for innovative research, graduate education, and corporate partnerships, boasting centers of excellence in transportation, safety, energy science, and high-performance computing. And just sort of a note on that corporate partnership part, I just wanted to say to Dr. Knapp personally how much we at the Loudoun County Chamber of Commerce truly appreciate and are proud of the strong partnership we have with GW, your Virginia Science and Technology campus, and particularly the leadership team that you have out here. They are very strong participants in not only the Chamber, but many activities that are important to the economy and community here in Loudoun County. And so I just want to thank you for creating the culture that enables them to be such active participants. So thank you very much for that. Back to the script. This afternoon, we are truly privileged to have Dr. Knapp join us to discuss the university's presence here in Loudoun County, and more importantly, to share his thoughts on the university's plans for the Loudoun campus, as well as other activities throughout Virginia. As the many Loudoun County business and community leaders in the room know, the George Washington University and its Virginia Science and Technology campus are among our community's most important educational and economic assets. With the growing emphasis on increasing the number of graduates with degrees in science, technology, engineering, and math, the so-called STEM disciplines, and the impact that this will have on America's future and long-term economic competitiveness, I know that many in our audience are very eager to hear Dr. Knapp's thoughts on that subject. In turn, Dr. Knapp is eager to hear your questions as well as your ideas for how George Washington University continue to play that vital role in supporting our efforts to keep Loudoun County one of the nation's finest communities to live, work, and to grow a business. Now, having this opportunity to hear from an extraordinary leader like Dr. Knapp is exactly the reason why the Loudoun County Chamber of Commerce created the Leadership Luncheon series. Our goal today is to offer our business community the opportunity to hear from and meet and hear from an accomplished leader and others from all walks of life to learn how they have applied the principles of leadership to achieve their goals in business, education, and other walks of life. The hope is that every chamber member who hears these lessons will apply these same principles to create a stronger business community and a stronger community right here for every citizen in Loudoun County. Now, the success of our Leadership Luncheon events and today's luncheon would not be possible without the support of our sponsors and partners. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank and recognize each of them. I will begin by recognizing our spotlight sponsor for today's Leadership Luncheon, Uninet, who is represented by Chris Craig. Chris is going to join us on stage after lunch to offer a few remarks on his company as well as to introduce our keynote speaker. But I would like to ask all of you to join me right now in thanking Uninet and Chris for their support for today's program. It's also my pleasure to recognize our table sponsors for today's program. The first one actually has several tables, but I'm only going to say their name once, and that is the George Washington University, Virginia Science and Technology campus. We also have as a table sponsor the Loudoun County Department of Economic Development, as well as McGuire Woods Consulting. Thank you to all of our table sponsors for today's event. It's also my pleasure to, round of applause, please. It's also my pleasure to recognize the Chamber's 2013 business partner, the Loudoun Industrial Development Authority, as well as our community partner, the Loudoun County Department of Economic Development. Thank you very much to our partners. And finally, allow me to recognize our photography sponsor, Dave Galen from Galen Photography. Please, another round of applause for all of the sponsors today. You were also very fortunate to be joined by a number of elected officials and VIPs in our audience, and I'd like to recognize them as well. From the Loudoun County Board of Supervisors, we are joined by the chairman, Mr. Scott York. We're also joined by Supervisor Janet Clark. Supervisor Suzanne Volpe. And has Supervisor Ken Reed joined us? If not, please, thank you very much to all the supervisors who have taken time to join us this afternoon. We're also joined by a former Secretary of Education here in this great Commonwealth, Mr. Jim Dyke. I'd like to recognize him at this time as well. Okay. It's now my privilege to recognize the leader of the Loudoun County Chamber of Commerce, Tracy White of HCA Northern Virginia. I'd like to ask Tracy and all of the members of the Chamber's Board of Directors to please stand now and to be recognized. Okay. Thank you to you, our honored guest at today's luncheon. We are going to start the program at 12:40, so please enjoy your lunch, and we'll see you back here at that time. Thank you. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope that everyone was able to enjoy your meal and that you have now begun work on your dessert. It is now time to start our program. And to introduce our keynote speaker for today's Leadership Luncheon, it is my privilege to invite to the stage Mr. Chris Craig from Uninet. In his role as President and Chief Operating Officer, Christopher Craig is responsible for all aspects of Unit's operations and performance. Under his leadership, Uninet has developed into the leading provider of cloud computing business management software for project-based organizations. Since joining Uninet in 2000, Chris has contributed to the company's growth through a variety of roles related to product management, professional services, customer account management, marketing, and business development. He has helped build the customer base to over 900 organizations, and revenue has increased 20% year over year for the last 9 years. Chris has an MS in Information Systems and a BS in Systems Engineering, both from the University of Virginia. Please join me in welcoming Chris Craig from Uninet.
Thanks, Tony, and I just want to thank Tony and the staff at the Loudoun Chamber for hosting and putting on this event, so I'd just like to applaud them. And also, I'll just put in a plug. If you have yet to join the Chamber, I strongly encourage you to consider it. It's a terrific opportunity for networking and a lot of other benefits that I'm sure Tony would be happy to speak with you about. So brief overview on Uninet as far as a company, who we are, what we do, where we fit, and then we'll get to the main event. As Tony mentioned, we are a software company designed primarily for professional services firms, project-based organizations, and we have a cloud-based or on-premise product that over 900 organizations use to facilitate resource planning and forecasting, looking out into the future. Who's overbooked, who's underbooked, what skills do they have, what skills do we need, that kind of thing. Web-based time tracking and expense reporting, billing and revenue recognition, so generating invoices, and then full project management reporting. The one thing I am probably most proud of with Uninet is we built the company, we bootstrapped the company, and we built it kind of from the ground up, and all of our development and all of our support is out of our headquarters in Loudoun. So we don't offshore anything to, Russia or the Philippines or wherever else, and it's kind of rare in the software space to have that story. So that's a unique aspect of our business. So on to the main event. Stephen Knapp became the 16th president of the George Washington University in August 2007. His priorities include enhancing the university's partnerships with neighboring institutions, expanding the scope of its research, strengthening its worldwide community of alumni, enlarging its students' opportunities for public service, and leading its transformation into a model of urban sustainability. Dr. Knapp serves on several major business and academic boards, including the Economic Club of Washington, the Greater Washington Board of Trade, the Greater Washington Urban League, the National Symphony Orchestra, and the Consortium of Universities of the Washington Metropolitan Area. And that's just to name a few. We had to shorten that list significantly because we'd be here all day if I mentioned all of them. He also chairs the Atlantic 10 Conference Council of Presidents and serves on the Senior Advisory Board of the NVTC, the Northern Virginia Technology Council. He's a specialist in Romanticism, literary theory, and the relation of literature to philosophy and religion. Dr. Knapp taught English literature at the University of California, Berkeley, before serving as Dean of Arts and Sciences and then Provost at Johns Hopkins. Dr. Knapp is the author of 3 books. He earned his doctorate and master's degrees from Cornell and his Bachelor of Arts from Yale. And I spoke with Dr. Knapp briefly before the session, and I asked him, can you tell me a couple things that wouldn't be on your professional resume? And he mentioned a couple unique things. He's a percussionist, and he's also an avid sheep farmer. So with that, Dr. Knapp.
Thank you, Chris, for that very kind introduction. Thanks also, Tony, for your kind remarks earlier on. It's really great to be here today, and I'm grateful that so many leaders of the community as well as of industry have come, and leaders of our university as well, have come here to listen to my remarks today. I do want to thank Supervisors Volpe, Clark, and Scott, and also Chairman White, Secretary Dyke, not only for being here, but for having such mercifully short names to remember. So I really do appreciate the Chamber's partnership, which Tony so kindly acknowledged, with everything we're trying to do here in this great county of Loudoun. A couple other people I'd like to acknowledge. We have one of our members of our Board of Trustees here, Trustee Mark Hughes, who, along with other influential Virginia-based trustees, has been guiding our thinking about the future of our Loudoun County campus in Ashburn and our other activities in the Commonwealth. And I'd also like to acknowledge some of the other university leaders who are here, Dr. Ali Eskandarian, who actually wears several George Washington hats right over here, Dean of our College of Professional Studies, and also the Dean of our Ashburn campus, which we call our Virginia Science Technology campus. I think that's very important that we've made the decision several years ago when I arrived to specify that identity for the campus. And by the way, in that capacity as Dean of the campus, is also in charge of all our Virginia teaching centers, including those in Arlington, Alexandria, and Newport News. And he happens to be a member of your board of directors and a member of the Chamber's CEO cabinet. We also have Dean David Dolling of the School of Engineering and Applied Science here, and Joe Bacchino, who is Senior Associate Dean for Health Sciences. I'm going to be talking a little bit more about the relevance of that position a little bit later on. And I believe Dave Steinauer, who is the Chief Information Officer of the university, is also with us. Well, we at George Washington are very proud to be not only in, but very much of Loudoun County. At last count, we have been holding on our campus in Ashburn about 100 events per year, and a number of programs that serve the county and its residents. These include our Science, Technology, and Engineering Day, which is an annual event that brings 120 high school students to our campus for STEM-focused workshops, our Genomics Summer Camp for Girls, which introduces 30 high school students to microbiology and the science of genomics, which, as I'm sure you all know, is the application of genetic information to medicine and other life science fields. We have a Teachers in Industry project, which is an externship program that places Loudoun County teachers in local businesses where they can learn firsthand what businesses need and want from their employees, and then take that knowledge back to the classroom and use it in their teaching and their preparation of their students. We also hold a number of small business workshops and artists exhibits, and I'm going to return to the theme of the arts a little bit later on, because I think that's an aspect of the campus that we're interested in exploring the potential of developing further. Well, I think it's great that we have all these ways of interacting with the community here in the county, but our ambition, both for our institution and for the county, goes beyond hosting these events, stimulating and entertaining as they may be. We want to be part, indeed an essential part, of Loudoun County's emergence as an increasingly powerful, innovation-based economy. Think about what Loudoun County already enjoys in that regard. One of the lowest unemployment levels in the nation, what Tech America identifies as the highest concentration of technology workers in the United States. And we now have the opportunity together to strengthen that workforce further, given the projected 1 million servicemen and women who will return to civilian life over the next few years after a decade of war. In fact, George Washington alone has about 1,000 student veterans at the moment. That's up by several hundred from just a few years ago. And we're right now launching a new initiative aimed at greatly increasing educational opportunities for veterans and active duty military personnel, with a strong push, particularly in the Commonwealth, and with a focus on fields like nursing, cybersecurity, engineering systems management, and project management. Many of these students would be ideal additions to the workforce here in Loudoun County, and I'm happy to say that just this week we added to my senior staff a new associate dean. We're calling it Senior Associate Dean for Veterans and Military Affairs, retired Vice Admiral Mel Williams, who's here as well. Mel, where are you sitting over here? So people, I'd like everybody to get to know Mel, because I think he could be a great partner with industry here in the county as we develop further this very important workforce. We're talking about young men and women with extraordinary dedication, discipline, leadership abilities that they often developed at a very early age, and that they can bring to your companies, I think, in very valuable ways. Well, in addition to its terrific and potentially even more terrific workforce, according to Moody's online publication economy.com, Loudoun County has the nation's largest number of internet, satellite, and defense companies. And of course, Chris's company is very much a part of that. It also enjoys the unparalleled advantage of proximity to Washington, D.C., and immediate proximity to Dulles International Airport, and it has available the land, the infrastructure, and the utilities that will enable it to take full advantage of all those other benefits I've mentioned. And we at George Washington are particularly struck by one additional statistic, namely that up to 70% of the world's internet traffic flows through Loudoun County data centers every day. And we're very interested in responding to that reality by looking seriously right now at the possibility of making big data one of the very central focuses of our future research growth on our Virginia Science and Technology campus in Ashburn. I'm going to say more about that in a moment. There's another aspect of the county's economic ecology, and that's an extraordinary wealth of resources in the life sciences, arguably, along with big data, the other major driver of an innovative economy in this world as it exists now. We have the Howard Hughes Medical Institute's Genelia Farm Research campus, and we have Joanne Thurich right over here, who is the Chief Administrative Officer, and we're already doing some things together, and we'd love to have the opportunity to do more with the Howard Hughes Medical Institute. We have the Inova Health System and HCA's Virginia Medical Center. And do want to recognize, I think that's the company, HCA is the company for which Chairman White works. So in response to that aspect of the county's ecology, in 2010, we created a new school of nursing and planted it right here on our Virginia Science and Technology campus, and we have some of the faculty of that school with us. By the way, we have faculty and students from a number of our schools who have joined us here this afternoon. We have a program in pharmacogenomics, which we developed in partnership with Shenandoah University and has existed on the campus since 2005. And now our plan is to put big data and the life sciences together by establishing our Institute for Computational Biology, led by really a great scientist in this field, Keith Crandall, Dr. Keith Crandall, who joined us last year and I think is already making rapid strides and is already getting to know a lot of you here in the county. I wanted to say a little bit about the investment that we're making in big data and the life sciences. So in the case of the Computational Biology Institute, the university is investing $5 million in startup funding over its first 5 years, an additional $1.2 million to add new computing capacity to the campus, which will complement the high-performance computing laboratory that's been on the campus since 2008. And we've decided to add this summer an additional big data initiative focused on medical genomics, or what is called personalized medicine. That's an additional investment of $5 million over 5 years. So we're talking about a total of $11.2 million invested over the first 5 years in the applications of big data to the life sciences. And we're planning next fall to add a third big data initiative probably at about the same level, and this one will be focused on physics and engineering. So I think there'll be a lot of opportunities, given the interests of the developing industries in Loudoun County. There'll be a lot of opportunities for partnerships and opportunities for you to use the resources that we're going to be making available on our campus, because we want to be part of your growth at the same time that you're part of our growth. These new efforts build on what we've already been doing on our Ashburn campus for 21 years now. We have 20 degree and certificate programs and 17 research labs. The labs focus on a range of fields, including a number that are directly or potentially relevant to the county's economic future: cybersecurity, transportation safety, high-performance computing, mechanical engineering, and energy science. I want to mention one other field because of an interesting experience I had in connection with it, and that's the work we're doing on earthquakes. We have an earthquake simulator. Some of you may have visited if you've toured our campus. I think you'd be interested to see it if you haven't had a chance to do it yet. Well, the August before last, my wife Diane and I, it was a beautiful August day, and my wife Diane and I were hosting kind of a picnic at our campus residence, which is a few blocks from the White House. We were hosting a picnic for the staff in a couple of our departments, for our transportation department, our moving department. This is something we do periodically for groups of staff when the weather permits it, and it's a nice way of getting to know those that we don't necessarily have a chance to interact with every day. And on this particular occasion, it was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, lunch was finishing up, we were moving back inside, and one of the gentlemen on our transportation staff turned to Diane and said, "Can you tell me a little bit about what you do on your Virginia Science and Technology campus in Ashburn, in Loudoun County, Virginia?" And she said, "Well, yeah, it's a very interesting campus. We've got 17 laboratories that are doing lots of interesting work out there. One of them actually has an earthquake simulator." I said, "Well, what's an earthquake simulator?" She said, "Well, it's a big steel table. It's anchored in bedrock 60 feet below the building, and it's used to you put models on it, and it shakes. It's a shake table. Shakes like this and simulates an earthquake." And he turned to me and he said, "Have you ever been in a real earthquake?" And I said, "Well, as a matter of fact, I lived in California for 16 years, and I experienced many earthquakes, including the big one, the Loma Prieta, that hit San Francisco in 1989, and that second the earthquake hit Washington, D.C. and this area." That very second. And he turned to me with a look of amazement and said, "What's that?" And I said, "A real earthquake," which it was. Now, I mentioned, I do want to focus on one other concrete example of things that we're doing in one of these fields that I think would be of interest to all of you. And I want to zero in on just one, in part because I think it has such a great name. The name is solar cement. We have a George Washington chemist named Stuart Licht, who has a $1.7 million grant from the National Science Foundation to develop a new way of manufacturing cement. Now, you may have known, but I did not know, that the cement manufacturing process, as it is carried out right now, is the second largest producer of greenhouse gas emissions after power plants. Well, Dr. Licht has found a way invented a way really, to use solar energy to power a chemical process that produces cement without any carbon dioxide emission. Dr. Licht's invention has already generated a great deal of excitement in the industry. Through all these efforts, we are looking for innovative approaches that will not only solve urgent problems, but do so in a way that creates economic value, and the real driver of innovation in our ability to bring together the resources of fields of inquiry that were not previously combined. That ability, I think, is really the hallmark of what we're trying to do on our campus. And by the way, we're just completing a strategic plan for the university as a whole, and one of the core themes of that plan is what we're calling innovation through interdisciplinary collaboration. And if you think of the fields I've just talked about, putting together chemistry and energy investigation and all the rest of that, or the big data applications to fields like the life sciences and other fields, all of these are interdisciplinary activities that go beyond the traditional limits of any particular discipline. But just think of how much more powerful those efforts will be if we can also bring together not only the resources of different academic fields, but the resources of our three sectors: higher education, the public sector, and the private sector. So we really need to develop a strategic partnership that will align the efforts of all three sectors. And that's why I was so eager to be able to address this audience today, because I think what will really make a difference for our shared future, and that's why we call this talk Our Future Together, is if we can align strategically what your companies are all doing, where you see the areas of growth, where we have potential employees that we're training in our many different programs here, including the new opportunities we have to provide education to our returning military personnel. If we can align all those efforts and do that in conjunction with the planning that's underway by the Board of Supervisors on the part of the county, and I know a lot of work's been done on transportation issues just this year, I think that will enable us all to move forward in a very powerful way that will make this county one of the technology hubs of this nation, one of the hubs of innovation that we see in other parts of the nation. It really involves developing all those parts of our economic ecology. And that means working with the extraordinary leadership the county already enjoys. Tony and his team at the Chamber, business leaders throughout the county, the Board of Supervisors, and leaders in the nonprofit and education sectors, many of which are already our partners. In the meantime, we're continuing to build out our campus in Ashburn. Next fall, we'll break ground on a new state-of-the-art conservation center that will house much of the collection of the new museum we're building on our Foggy Bottom campus in partnership with the Textile Museum. That's a world-class museum that's sort of tucked away in the Colorama neighborhood of Washington, D.C., but it's an extraordinary museum that's going to be of interest to a lot of different academic fields, from anthropology to art history to African kind of studies to Asian studies. And we're very proud of the fact that it's now going to be located at the heart of our Foggy Bottom campus. But this sister facility will be a state-of-the-art curatorial and conservation facility which will enable us to store the materials from the museum in environmentally controlled conditions, but will also enable us to innovate on curatorial activities that will be of interest to our museum studies students and probably of interest to others in the community here, and may also create some business opportunities for companies that are interested in those areas. We'd like to explore ways of attracting more Loudoun citizens to our campus, potentially by developing arts programs that would further enrich the county's cultural life. In all these ways, once again, we're striving to be ever more of, as well as in, Loudoun County. So thanks again for the invitation, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Yes, we will. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have a few minutes, more than a few minutes, of some questions from the audience. As I look out, I see some of the least shy people I know. So I really look forward to some good questions from our audience, so please fire away. Maybe I'll get the ball rolling. Dr. Knapp, you told us a great deal about the plans you have for the Loudoun campus as it relates to investment in research in some really exciting areas. Not only areas that most importantly would improve the human condition, but really are very exciting from an economic perspective too as well going forward. And we're a Chamber of Commerce, and that's important to us. One of the things we hear quite a bit about is the need to generate more students with advanced degrees and advanced degrees in those STEM discipline areas. And I was wondering if you could offer some thoughts on George Washington University's efforts to improve the number of students we have that can take on some of those jobs that will hopefully originate from much of the great investment that you're making in Loudoun County.
Sure, happy to. Yeah, indeed. Well, in fact, I mentioned we have people from several schools here. We actually have some faculty here from our School of Education. We call it the Graduate School of Education and Human Development, and it actually has a focus on STEM education among its other programs. So we are working in partnership with the schools and with educational leadership here and in the city as well to really develop opportunities for STEM education. I do think this new veterans program has tremendous potential in that regard, because we're talking about students who in many cases have had technical experience in their military service, and if they can, just as is the case with the health sciences, where you may have somebody who was a combat medic who can get an accelerated nursing degree or nurse practitioner degree or physician's assistant degree and get that certification in an efficient way and really become part of that very important sector of the economy. And of course, that's the STEM, we call that STEM-H, right? STEM plus health. In fact, you can also have STEAM-H if you add the arts in there, which we're also interested in. Another important aspect of an innovative economy. We really are dedicated to doing that. And of course, many of the programs, the educational programs we offer and will increasingly offer on our campus in Ashburn are programs that we're not moving from Foggy Bottom out to out to Ashburn. We're creating them in Ashburn in response to market demand. I think one of the most important things about our approach in the Commonwealth is that we're looking not to move programs, to transplant them, but to create them in response to the immediate needs. We're not, in other words, we're not using this as a kind of secondary effort. It's a new primary effort in what we're involved in as a university. So I think there are a lot of opportunities there. And we have a number of university leaders who are involved in this. By the way, I also want to acknowledge that Vice President Lorraine Voles, the Vice President for External Relations, is here, and our overall outreach to the Commonwealth is under her leadership, and my Chief of Staff, Barbara Porter, is also here, and she's involved in developing a lot of these collaborative relations as well. So, please.
Thank you. Dr. Knapp, we have one right here.
Great.
Hi, Dr. Knapp, I'm curious, you were talking about...
Oh, and by the way, if I may ask, if you wouldn't mind just identifying, I know who you are, John Wood,
sure.
But if you wouldn't mind identifying yourself for the benefit of my staff who
sure.
haven't met you.
I'm John Wood, and my question has to do with returning military veterans as well as military kids. My question is, what is George Washington University doing? Maybe you can talk about the things you might be doing in the area of distance learning. Because as we talk about these returning military veterans and their children, that becomes an opportunity, but many of them are located sort of all over the place, sure. as you know. Yeah. So I'm just curious to know about that. And the second question I had, sir, is the $11.2 million investment that you're making, how much of that would you call research dollars in general?
Well, so let me start with the second one, because what I was talking about were startup funds for these research activities. So those are actual investments. I mean, the $1.2 million that I mentioned, that piece is to build on. We already have a lot of high-performance computing capacity on that campus, but a lot of that is dedicated to existing research projects. In order to move into this big data space for the life sciences, we're going to add that capacity to the campus. And of course, we happen to enjoy an infrastructure here in the county that allows us to do that, that enables us to do that. But I'm talking about direct investments in research and the infrastructure that will enable us to do that research. On the first question...
That's great, thank you.
Oh, you bet. And on the first question, we actually have a new position at the university, a vice provost focused entirely on what we're doing in distance education, and we're really trying to develop our strategy. As you know, there's a lot of discussion in the media now about things like MOOCs, you know, massively online, open courses. We're trying to figure out what our role is going to be in that space, which is a very complex one with lots of different experiments that are being tried. But we already do a fair amount of instruction, some of that aimed at the military around the world. And I mentioned Joe Bacchino, who's here, whose Health Sciences division of the School of Medicine and Health Sciences is already doing some of that outreach. But I'd almost want to hand the microphone to, maybe I can do that. Mel, it's kind of putting you on the spot. You've only been working for us for 2 days. But why not, you know? Why don't you talk a little about what we're doing with military and veterans? This is Admiral Williams.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I look forward to serving with you. And as someone who has labored in the defense and service of our great nation for many years, it is truly a privilege for me to be able to join President Knapp and all the leaders here at George Washington. Know that as I transitioned from the military, transitioned from the U.S. Department of Energy, I had choices. I purposefully elected to come to George Washington University because of their values, which align very much with my own personal values. And oh, by the way, the values align with military members and veterans. And so I will be charged to support the leaders at George Washington, working closely with you to ensure that our military members, our veterans, and their families, we outreach and ensure that they can come and join us with the George Washington experience. We'll do everything that we can to ensure that it's a positive experience, and on the back end, working with you with respect to the prospects of career placement. So thank you for the opportunity to grab the microphone. Look forward to serving with you.
Any more questions? Al, please.
Your plans for student housing in the area. I live just east of the campus, and what I'm seeing, and my supervisor's here also, I don't know what she's seen, but you know, there's a lot of empty nesters now in the area. We've got a lot of students, you know, living in the homes and so on, nursing students, I know. some personal, situations. And that's not necessarily so bad, I mean, that's okay, but what is the thought for, the undergrad? I'm particularly thinking, because I don't know what the balance is between undergrad and grad, but especially for the undergrads, what plan is there to bring more students to the area?
Well, so right now, the undergraduate program we have is an accelerated program in nursing, which enables students who already have a bachelor's degree to come back if they want to get an accelerated route to becoming a nurse. Other than that, our presence is almost entirely a graduate presence on the campus right now. We are, however, doing a plan. We're in the midst of doing a plan for the campus, and Dean Eskandarian is leading that effort. And I've asked that be one of the questions that's taken up, is what would be the possibility of it. And we've had some discussion of potentially having students reside on campus. Whether those would be undergraduate or graduate students, I'm not sure right now. We do have room on the campus to build. We've got, it's a 123-acre campus now. It only has a few buildings on it. They're rather substantial facilities that lend themselves very well to the activity that's going on there now. I mentioned the one that we're breaking ground on, but I can see us building out the campus further. We really have to figure out what that direction is going to be, and I'd like to do that really in communication with and collaboration with the county to figure out what the needs are, and that's why I mentioned that possibility of an arts and performance presence there as well.
One more question? All right, I think that's it. Ladies and gentlemen, please, a round of applause. I'm going to give you something before you get away. Dr. Knapp, thank you very much for your remarks this afternoon. Thank you very much for sharing with us the wonderful information about the investments and the programs and great things that have been happening and will continue to happen and grow, and how they happen at George Washington University's Virginia Science and Technology campus. We appreciate that. It really is an exciting time to be in Loudoun County from a technology perspective, research, education, business development. But I wanted to present to you this coffee table book, a photographic portrait of Loudoun County. We have another side here in Loudoun County. We have one of the most beautiful counties in all of Virginia and beyond. And so next time you have one of those staff luncheons, I would invite you to bring them out here to Loudoun County and visit one of our parks or wineries. I think they'd enjoy that, or some of the other great facilities that we have here in Loudoun County. And you can see some information on that in that book. Ladies and gentlemen, please, another round of applause for Dr. Knapp. Thank you. Enjoy the